Who should start for the Seattle Mariners at second base on opening day? Let's talk about it. So while for some of you this might not be that important of a question because I feel like the answer might be a little bit obvious, but is someone like Ryan Bliss actually making a push to be a potential opening day starter at second? Let's be honest for a second, this is probably arguably the most up in the air the Seattle Mariners infield has been in a little while. I mean, you have a lot of things that you hope to go right in the 2025 season for this infield to really pan out to be something. Besides Luke Raley and maybe you can argue even Donovan Solano, there are a lot of question marks on whether these other guys will perform at the level we know they can or have before, or just perform at that level for the first time ever. So obviously there are massive question marks around Jorge Polanco. Will he be able to also not only bounce back, but will he be able to stay healthy for this whole season with knowing what's going on with his knee? Will JP Crawford be able to bounce back to a level that he was in 2023, or will he have another 2024 type season? Luke Raley is pretty much the one guy that I think we can really rely on in terms of he will just produce at what level he did last year. I think that's just going to be pretty consistent for him, and I think he's honestly only going to get better. And then obviously Donovan Solano, we haven't seen him in a Mariners uniform yet, but he is obviously a very solid hitter, not a great defender, but a very solid hitter who can hopefully make a pretty big contribution to this team in 2025. But I mean, the real question is what are the Seattle Mariners going to do at second base on a day-to-day basis? And obviously that main argument comes between Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss. Now, for those of you who recall, Ryan Bliss was received from the Arizona Diamondbacks in the Paul Sewald trade. I believe it was back in 2023 before the trade deadline. And basically the Mariners in that trade got Josh Rojas, Dom Canzone, and Ryan Bliss. Now, we all knew what Josh Rojas was going to be. Josh Rojas was Josh Rojas for most of his career. He's going to go out and do not too much offensively, but he's going to play a very solid defense. While Dom Canzone has, like I said in the previous video, been kind of a bit of a toss-up. He hasn't been talked about too much this offseason, but in spring training, he's doing very, very well, which is nice to see. So maybe he can make some contributions this year because I do think he also has a lot of upside. But honestly, Ryan Bliss was one of the more exciting pieces in this trade because he has been killing it at the minor league level for most of his career. He just really has never even really been given the chance to prove it at the MLB level, except last year we had a decent number of at-bats, which we'll go over a little bit in this video. But Ryan Bliss has a lot of upside. He has a lot of speed. He plays a pretty good defense overall, and he has a lot of pop for a guy who is smaller in stature. Shout out our 5'10 Kings. But I'm going to start off this video by talking about Dylan Moore, aka Demo, who won his first Gold Glove as a utility player last season, which he is honestly one of the best utility players in the entire game, especially from a defensive standpoint. So I'm not even going to sit here and be worried about Demo playing second base at a high level because he is a very good defender. He'll be fine no matter where he plays in the infield or honestly even the outfield. So I have two main concerns with Demo. One is a little more current and some of you might think is a little dumb, but it's slightly concerning, while the other one is more based on his career, but they're both coming from an offensive standpoint. So let's be real, Demo is a pretty inconsistent player when it comes from the offensive side of the game. I mean, even if you just look at his stats from last year, he's not very good at home, by the way. In his home plate appearances, he only hit 144 at home, while away he hit 249. So he clearly does much better when he is away from T-Mobile Park. But Demo played in a lot of games last year. I believe it was 135. And as you could just tell by these months, he was just very inconsistent. We know he had that massive month, especially when they went to New York for the East Coast for that long road trip. He absolutely killed the ball at that point. But if you just listen to his batting average by month, March and April, he was at 193, May 241, June 182, July 224, August 158, September, October 186. So I mean, there really wasn't any month I was like, wow. I mean, a 241 isn't great, but he did have 5 home runs in that month, so that was pretty good for him. But otherwise, you're really not going to, you know what you're going to get offensively from Dylan Moore. His best offensive season where he put together basically an entire season besides the COVID 2020 season where he had a 255 batting average and a 140 WRC plus in only 38 games. His best season, realistically, you could argue, was probably last year from a WAR perspective, and maybe even, but WRC plus was probably his 2022 season. But then again, he only hit 224 with 6 home runs and 24 RBIs in 104 games. So that's really the big thing here is that Demo, you know really what you're going to get offensively. And going back to what some of you might clown me about, but in spring training, he is 0 for 14 with 1 walk. So that is not, a great sign from a guy who's really trying to technically earn his second base position. We know he probably has the leeway, he probably has the advantage over Ryan Bliss. But at the end of the day, he doesn't even have a hit in spring training yet. So that is kind of concerning, and you kind of have to factor that in when you're going to run out an opening day lineup to see who's really hot. Sometimes you just got to play the hot hand. And when you go into Ryan Bliss's spring training stats, nothing crazy. It's not anything out of this world. But he is 4 for 13. So he has a 308 batting average with 2 doubles, a triple, and 1 single. So again, you kind of have to factor in, maybe you just run out the hot hand on opening day and maybe give Ryan Bliss that shot. And yes, last year, Ryan Bliss did only play in 33 games for the Mariners at the major league level, where he had a .222 batting average with 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, a 101 WRC plus, and a .4 WAR. Now, for his first chance at the major league level, I don't think that's that bad. Again, he wasn't like an everyday player. He really had only 2 main stints where he was playing a lot. So to give you a better sense, he really only had 1 month where he played a lot of games. He had 49 ABs in 20 games in the month of June. And then really after that, he only had 5 ABs in March, 5 ABs in July, and 4 ABs in August. So he really did not get that full opportunity to play at the major league level. And in that month of June, he actually did pretty well. He hit .265 in that month. He did have a lot of strikeouts. He had 17 strikeouts and only 55 plate appearances, which is a pretty high percentage. But he did have a home run. He did have a triple. He did have 3 doubles. So he was producing at a pretty good level for, his first lick at the major league level. And defensively, like I said, he's not that bad either. We really haven't seen him do it in a massive bunch or a bunch of games in a row. He did play in 177 innings at second base last year. We had a 2 range and a 2 FRV and a 2 outs above average. So he's in the positive in terms of all those major defensive statistics, which is a good thing to see. And again, let's talk about his speed. I know I had brought this up in a previous video when I was talking about kind of what Ryan Bliss could really do for this team. When he was in the minor leagues last year, or not even just last year, in the course of his minor leagues throughout his whole career, he had 55 stolen bases in 2023 at the minor league level, which was in 128 games. And then in 93 minor league games with the Seattle Mariners last year, he stole 50 bags. That is pure speed. That is more than 2 stolen bases a game on average, which is absolutely nuts. I don't care what level you're playing at. Now, obviously, from a Ryan Bliss perspective, when you're kind of looking at his stats a little bit deeper, you do, like I said, he does struggle with the strikeouts. So when he was in the major leagues last year, he had a 31% K rate, which is pretty through the roof. He's striking out basically once every 3 at-bats, which is a lot. And he's not walking too much. He had a 7% walk rate last year. Like I said, very minimum playing time, but only 7%. While in the minors last year, he did have a 14.1% walk rate compared to a 22.4% K rate. So that is pretty good. I think Ryan Bliss really has the potential. And I do think if Demo kind of continues on this track where he's going to be cold all spring, and I know spring training numbers aren't the be-all end-all, and they don't really mean that much in theory. Everyone's just kind of trying to get going and kind of getting hot. But if Demo, only has 1 hit in 35 plate appearances, while Ryan Bliss continues to hit .308 in 30 plate appearances, I don't see how the Mariners can kind of overlook that and not really just ride the hot hand. If Ryan Bliss is really feeling it, let's start him up at the major league level. Let's give him that shot to start on opening day, and maybe from the get-go, he hits a home run on opening day, whatever the case is, and really just gets hot and plays at a pretty solid level all season long. And something else I have also brought up about Demo is I think Demo is a better player when he is playing defensive positions that are different than the same thing every single day. He is basically what I'm trying to say is if Demo in a week span plays second base, he plays third base one game, and he mixes in maybe an outfield game. I think he performs better from an offensive perspective than when he's just playing second base every single day. Because like I said, his numbers, he eventually just cools off. He had a really hot month last year. He started off the season pretty hot when, once May came around. But then once he really started to play every single day, you saw those numbers just completely fall off. So like I said, I love Demo. I think Demo is a huge part of this team, not only from maybe even a leadership perspective, but also from just experience. And he's just a perfect utility man. I mean, he just won a Gold Glove to be he's one of the best defensive utility guys in the game, which is awesome. And it's definitely something the Mariners need, especially from an infield perspective, especially the way the Mariners infield looks this season and all the what ifs. But again, Demo from an offensive perspective is a massive, not even what if I would say. I said, what you're going to get. You're going to get maybe 10 home runs if he plays in 100 plus games. You're maybe going to get 40, 50 RBIs. You kind of hope. And then maybe his main thing is his defense. It's not his offense. So in my opinion, I think if we kind of keep going on this trajectory where Ryan Bliss is really having a great spring like he is now by the end of March, and Demo is kind of still continuing to struggle, I say we give Ryan Bliss a shot to start opening day at second base. Let him get all those nerves out. Maybe he does something great. Maybe he has a walk-off, whatever the case is. Maybe he just does something great that really allows him to finally feel comfortable at the major league level, and then he can finally live up to what he's been doing in the minor leagues. I mean, this guy has a massive upside. He's only 24 years old, and he's doing, what he's doing now. Again, he didn't have a great first 30 games at the major league level, but it's nothing to look at and be like, oh, this guy's going to be terrible. So I think we give Ryan Bliss a shot, especially if it keeps going the way it is. And you know what you're going to get from Demo. It's that simple. So please let me know what you guys think and maybe who you guys think the Mariners should try at second base on opening day, which most likely, realistically, it's going to be Demo, unless, something really crazy happens, but realistically it's probably going to be Demo. But I do think they should really consider give Ryan Bliss a legit shot this season and really see what he can do at this level. If he's given, again, 265 in his main bulk at the major league level last year, that's pretty good for a guy who's never even seen major league pitching before. So in my opinion, I think that he should really be given a shot this year, whether that is opening day, whether that is, maybe a few games into the season, whatever the case is. I think Ryan Bliss deserves a legitimate shot to be the everyday second baseman in 2025. But like I said, please let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Otherwise, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.